Hi, HRN listeners. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we have a really fun campaign and an ask for you. This 15th anniversary tour is aiming to bring you closer to unique food and music experiences in some of the most exciting cities in America. All the while, we're raising funds to support our work empowering the next generation of food systems storytellers through our fellowship programs. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and be entered into a raffle in the city of your choice to win a dinner for two at a noteworthy restaurant and tickets for two to a concert at a prominent local venue. We have incredible partners in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Asheville, and Ardmore, Pennsylvania, who have donated a meal for two and two tickets to a concert of the winner's choice. And all donations help fund our fellowship programs, where we're helping to build essential workforce readiness skills and food system storytelling skills. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Samuel Adams, Brewing the American Dream. Hear stories from their inspiring entrepreneurs on Let's Talk About Food, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome to Spill and Dish, a new podcast from the Specialty Food Association. Founded in 1952, SFA is a leading trade association and source of information about the $175 billion specialty food industry. We champion the food producers, retailers, and other buyers who make up the specialty food world. If you want to know more about membership, visit specialtyfood.com. In each episode, we want to share the stories behind the products made and sold by our members, who are helping to shape the future of food. You can listen and discover the inspiration, recipe, craft, culture, ingredients, and production methods that help answer the question, what makes specialty food special? I'm today's host, George Hajar, Associate Editor at SFA. We're excited to bring you today's episode and so happy to be working with Heritage Radio Network, a nonprofit podcast network covering the world of food, drink, and agriculture, and expanding the way eaters think about food. Today's guest is Emilio Mignucci, owner and Senior Vice President of Di Bruno Brothers, a Philadelphia-based Italian specialty food gourmet retailer featuring items made in-house as well as high-quality sourced products. Started in 1939 by Danny and Joe, the two Di Bruno brothers, they opened their first location on 9th Street in Philadelphia. Their products span many categories, including olive oils and vinegars, cheeses, cured meats, pastas and sauces, and more. Emilio is also on the board of directors for both the Italian Market Business Association and the Specialty Food Association. Welcome, Emilio. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive right into it. So, how did you get involved in specialty food?
In South Philadelphia, in the Italian market neighborhood, you almost don't have a choice. The food business is what's going on down there, and it was what my grandparents were doing. Back then, we didn't look at it as specialty food. We looked at it as just really great food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I see that you were working in you're a part of a family company. How has it been working at this family business? And I saw that you had, that culinary background. How do you feel it helped you in that position?
Well, my grandparents started this business in 1939, and my brother, cousin, and I, the three of us would, be at the store all the time as young kids, and we went to school in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we always went back to the store and had lunch and hung out with our grandparents and helped them in the store here and there. But when we went off to choose college, my brother and my cousin went for business, and I just had this bug for food, so I went to culinary school. Wanted to be a chef, a cook, and because I loved it and I loved to eat, and so after culinary school, I landed a job working in a local restaurant, a fine dining restaurant that was just opened up. It's called the Lulo Centro, which was at the time, a very pioneering Italian restaurant that was doing really great stuff. And so I worked there for 4 years before my grandparents were ready to retire, announce their retirement, and they were going to sell the business. And my cousin Bill came to me and said, we should do something. We can't let, Grandma and Grandpa just sell the business. Yeah. And then we roped my brother into it, and the three of us got together and called a big family meeting and decided to tell our grandparents that we were interested in making this their legacy and letting it live on for longer, because we just were so grateful for what our grandparents had done in a way that they had come over as immigrants with nothing more than a third grade education, and then opening up a business and learning to service the local community, and for us it was important that their hard work continue to be recognized, and I guess that's how we finally stepped into the family business, and then we grew the business to what it is today. I mean, 7 retail stores. We import and distribute. We manufacture, catering and events, and an e-commerce business. So we have a lot of verticals to what we do.
Yeah. And it seems that it's only been expanding. I mean, you got your 7th store recently. And can you tell me a little bit about the products that you make and package and source and everything?
Yeah, it's interesting because when we started with the one little store, we were predominantly a cheese shop and charcuterie store. And, we started delving into making sandwiches and doing, catering trays for folks. And then we started taking trips to New York, and we gained a lot of inspiration from visiting the Dina DeLucas and the Balducci's at that time in the 90s, early 90s. And that inspiration drove us to want to delve into prepared foods. And so we hired a chef and a kitchen crew and started making prepared foods. And that's when we decided to open a second location to service the community with cooked foods that came from the ingredients that we sold in the store. We just thought it was a natural progression of what we did. And so that was fun. And we realized that it was early on in that style of business to be happening, like prepared foods was in the 90s was just kind of kicking off in specialty stores. And we knew that we had really great people working at the Bruno Brothers and great people that needed more opportunity. And that afforded us the reasons to go out and look for other opportunities within the business to help those who were really valuable to the Bruno Brothers to be able to create a life working within a company. And we knew that our grandparents would be most proud of, because we ask ourselves, what would Danny and Joe do? We knew that they would be most proud of the fact that this company was allowing people to grow up in the company, go to school, buy a house, raise a family, get married, be part of a community. That's really what Danny and Joe was about. And that's what the business is there for. And the folks that help make it great or help to identify areas of growth for the business are the ones that, help to make the Bruno's what it is today.
Yeah, that's that it's like enabling people to succeed. That's really interesting. And I feel like I see that strong message. I looked at some pictures of the 6th location in Wayne, and I saw that there was sort of the story along the walls, and it sort of is more styled towards like an old time experience. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we do believe it's really important never to forget where you come from. And, when you come to work at the Bruno Brothers, the only connection to my grandparents and who they were and how they were is really those photos and us being in the stores as owner operators, walking the stores, getting behind the counters, working side by side with a lot of the associates and telling the stories of my grandparents and what they did and how they did things. And, making people understand who they were so they can really get the culture of who we are and where we come from. I think that's important. And that's why those photos and some of the things that we still do today that, help us to stay connected to the past, but while adding innovation and technology to help to advance the organization. I always thought it really, really interesting. When we took over the family business in 1990, my aunts stayed on board, and we had a couple of young guys who worked for us, so 15, 16-year-old guys working for us, and then my aunts and uncles who were still there that were in their 70s and 80s. And the communication between young and old and back and forth, and the disagreements, and then the growth process that we saw for all of us, even my aunts and uncles, like really getting, what we at our age, we're talking about, as well as the younger generation who is just working there. And I think that was always important and helped us to be as innovative and as forward thinking while still holding on to the past and understanding, values of who and what we are.
Yeah. And talking a little bit about that technology, I remember I was looking at the website, and I saw something that said in the mid to late 90s is when you started doing an online service, started doing like an online retailer. So that must have been pretty interesting, working with the older generation to bring them into the 20th and then 21st century.
It was so funny when we think about it. So what drove us into an e-commerce business was that a lot of people that knew my grandparents and would shop the store as they had gotten older decided that they were going to move. Most of the people moved to Florida. And so they would ask us to ship them product while they were down there. And, my aunts and uncles didn't understand that process of, first of all, it used to be a cash-only business. We make it a business that accepts credit cards. And they were like, who uses credit cards? Like, why? That doesn't make sense. And I remember these conversations. And then we go into shipping product to people and taking a credit card over the phone to pay for the product. And then they were always dubious of that, saying, how do you know you're going to get paid? What if they dispute the charges? And I'm like, well, that's why they have insurance for credit cards. And it just was a learning experience and fun. And, just really, really interesting. The dynamics of the older generation and the younger generation coming together to, really figure it out,
Yeah. Yeah. And since becoming that owner, how has been like steering the wheel of the company and expanding? Because I've noticed you've opened quite a few more stores since you joined.
Yeah. So when we took over, it was one location, and as we grew and as we had, unlike today where we don't have enough personnel, we're always looking for help like everybody else is. But, back then we had great people and we were teaching them, about how to handle cheese. And there wasn't a school for retail. And we were learning as we went, but we were educating and teaching people how to do what we were doing. And those folks, we realized could go and work anywhere else. But if we gave them opportunity here within the Bruner Brothers, it helped us to then grow into other stores and open up new locations. And so the want to help people grow within the company, give them the range to be able to make suggestions and, I think it's important to let people make mistakes and learn from them. Was really what helped us get to where we are today. And we're still we consider ourselves a very entrepreneurial business. My cousin and partner, Bill, he and I are the same age. He's the president of the company. I'm the vice president along with my brother as vice president. My brother oversees finance. My cousin is kind of the big ideas guy, visionary, always thinking about why can't we do it? Like, why not us? And, stuff like that. And then I, I'm the guy that does a lot of the education and training and store level stuff, getting our teams up to speed to be able to be subject matter experts for the customers that come through, with an operations team that then helps us be able to grow it, systematize, organize, and help make others successful within the organization.
And is that where the culinary pioneering title comes in?
Honestly, when we first sat down and were talking about who we are with some friends who were into branding, we just kept coming back to Danny and Joe and my grandfather and uncle, and how they were really the pioneers. They came over with, like I said, nothing more than a third grade education, and didn't really know how to retail. Landed in South Philadelphia and went to work for a family named Los Angeles to learn retail, and then took what they learned and saved their money and bought a little store, 300 square foot store, and started selling, some of the stuff that they missed from the old country. And to us, they were the pioneers, and, our job and task is just to keep it alive. So, being able to forge new ground back then for two guys who were just immigrants was, we considered that pioneering, which is why we, tagged that line. It's really an homage to my grandparents.
Yeah, that's really nice. And you were talking a lot a little bit earlier about the education that you did and that you worked on and that you're constantly a part of. Do you feel that you can share some of that education? For example, what did you not know that you wish you had known?
We didn't know anything. Yeah. Start with that. We knew zero. We were making mistakes left and right, and that's really how you learn. I'll tell you, a quick story. We take over the business in early 1990-ish, and I remember me and my cousin looking at invoices for cheese, Pecorino Romano, that we were selling. And, my grandparents had gotten old and been selling the cheese for so long that in their later years, they didn't really look at pricing. They just sold it for whatever they sold it for years. And we looked and we said, Pecorino Romano, wow, it's $3.49 a pound. We're selling it for $3.49 a pound, but we're paying $3.59 a pound. Like, we can't afford to make 10 cents a pound. So we... talk about learning experience. We decided to go from $3.49 to $3.69. So at least we'd make 10 cents over the cost. And when we did that, we raised the price to like 20 cents. And customers were coming in irate, like, you're trying to get rich overnight. Your grandparents would be so disappointed in you. And we right away, like, we kind of panicked about that. And so a lot of the older generation, like, if you know the neighborhood back then, there was a lot of old school Italians, and Italians that had been there for a long time. They would come in the store and just, holler at us. And so we would have to show them the invoice and say, look, we're paying $3.59. We're only asking for 10 cents over cost, and I don't know whether they believed it or didn't believe it or what, but it got to a point where we finally just said, you know what, you pay whatever you want. Everybody else that will pay $3.69 will pay the $3.69. And that happened and went on for a long time. And, that's just one little thing. Like, we had no idea how to communicate or talk about any of that stuff. And then when we were thinking about moving into a new location, second location in Center City, we decided that we were learning so much from our own customers, people who were huge fans of the Bruno Brothers and my grandparents, and, that they were so very forgiving to us for every mistake that we made, that they would teach us and tell us about things that, it's a blessing to have customers like that are willing to tell you what mistakes you're making and, forgive you for the mistakes that you make, along the way. That we decided, and back then, 94, I guess it was, we never knew about focus groups, but we invited some of our most regular customers to come in after we close, and we'd feed them a bunch of cheese and stuff and talk to them about, what they think we should do next and what would make sense, in retail, just trying to get their opinions. And, that proved to be very, very helpful. And we just started doing a bunch of that, holding focus groups with some of our customers. But then, as time goes on and you're growing, you have two stores now. Like, how do you manage two stores? It's not as easy as you think. Like, just go and do the same thing every day. So I run into a fella, Ari Weinswig, meet Ari, and Ari from Zingerman's, and he was just a whole nother, different type of thought leader. And, we start talking about, well, you got to have scorecards somehow to identify like what you think or what the business should be doing. And you got to understand the sales, gross, and labor and finances. And, So because of him, we read this book called The Great Game of Business. And Ari then gave me a whole list of books that I should read. And I would call him, regularly be like, well, what about this? And what about that? And he'd say, well, here, just read this and read that and teach us about stuff. And so we created a financial thing that we call a CTP, wherein everybody who works at the Bruner Brothers gets a CTP, every week so that they can see what their business was last week and especially within their departments, and then what it should be for next week. And so that's just one way, but there's lots of things that we've had to adapt and to do. Like you have to teach people how to be as entrepreneurial as we are. You have to teach people how to buy, like what's the focus of buying, how to negotiate, and what should pricing be. And so setting up all of those things for our company took a lot of time. And, I can't take credit for all of it, but we did take classes. My cousin, my brother, and I all took classes at Penn. The University of Penn offered classes at the time for family businesses, and you can go, twice a week. You sign up for it and take these courses with business folks, and they would teach you all these things. And you live and you learn. And eventually I just started to, get on different boards, the American Cheese Society, board, and Specialty Foods Association, and realized that networking in our industry was a really great way to educate yourself and to help share information with others. And we realized that others were going through the same difficulties we were going through, and we could collectively come up with ideas to help each other and share ideas between each other to get better.
Yeah, that's great. So would you say that was something that maybe surprised you about the industry? Were you expecting that going into it, that it would be?
No, I didn't. We didn't expect that the industry would be so collaborative. We just thought everybody is competition. And fortunately, in our world of specialty food, and we consider ourselves like uber specialty, because specialty food is all over the place. Our world of specialty food is so collaborative. Other retailers around the country that kind of do what we do, we learned a great deal from that. And that was a blessing and a real treat for us to find out. And so whenever and however we can give back, we're always trying to do that.
Thank you so much. So we're almost out of time, but before you go, we would like for you to participate in our final segment, Take 5. 5 questions for our guest. First, let's pause and take a break.
Certainly.
I'm Louisa Kasdan, host of Let's Talk About Food. I recently hosted an exciting live podcast event in Boston and interviewed incredible women entrepreneurs who have received small business coaching from the Samuel Adams Brewing the American Dream program.
When I was applying to law school and I got in, I said, you know what? I'm still young. Let me pivot and go into the food industry and really follow my passion.
I was kind of scared. It was a new thing to me. It was like, hey, I don't want me in the newspaper. I just want to be in my room, in my house. So that was when I'm like, okay, now that I'm in the local newspaper, I better not disappoint the people that, that have this belief in me.
And on the days that you're tired or you feel defeated, just keep going. And 10 people might tell you no, but that doesn't mean that's your end result. You just have to keep going.
Hear their stories on Let's Talk About Food, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again to Samuel Adams Brewing the American Dream for supporting this episode.
HRN is home to transformative exchanges about food. We hope our diverse lineup of shows opens your eyes, educates, and empowers.
Thanks to HRN, I ventured into the world of cooking with sumac, and I have not looked back since.
I was listening to A Taste of the Past with my mom, and there was an episode about the history of American food. It inspired me to make it the subject of my final social studies project, and I ended up getting an A.
Join us during our summer membership drive by donating and becoming a member. Members play an essential role in keeping nonprofit food radio on the air. Go to heritageradionetwork.org/donate to become a member today. We thank you for your support.
Hello again, and welcome back. I'm George Hajar of SFA, speaking with Emilio Mignucci of Di Bruno Brothers. Okay, here are your 5 questions for our final segment, Take 5. 1. What is your favorite thing about the specialty food industry?
The community.
What is one thing that the SFA has made easier for you as a specialty food business owner?
Collaboration.
If you weren't running a business, what would you be doing?
Cooking.
What's one piece of advice you'd give a new food business?
Have a mission and a vision.
How do you define specialty food?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Specialty food is, to me, it's just really good traditional foods, but it could be new and innovative foods as well. I mean, specialty food is just food done well.
A big thanks to Emilio Mignucci for joining us today. And you can find out more about this show on specialtyfood.com and heritageradionetwork.org. And remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Come back often to get to know the people who are shaping the future of food. Special thanks to Heritage Radio Network, the world's pioneer food radio station. This is Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast.
Excellent.
Spill and Dish is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
It's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize wow, this piece of legislation, all this money, it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.